My name's Brian Leffler. We currently run Cremation Specialist of Pennsylvania, which is online cremation business that is serving all of Pennsylvania that we started about 18 months ago.
Okay, great. And what would you say is an average annual call volume for you?
We started out slow. This year, we're probably on target to hit 100 calls.
Oh, great. Okay. So growing quickly.
Yes, more so on the pre-need side than the at-need side, but we are growing on the at-need side as well.
Okay. And how did you hear about Parting Pro?
I think through Facebook, I believe, and I had a friend that was using it as well.
Oh, okay. So kind of in an online community and a business community.
Correct.
Wonderful. And how would you say you came to the decision to actually implement Parting Pro in your business?
We were with a different company prior, and we were really struggling with the online forms. We offer the traditional business model funeral home and the low-cost business model. And on the low-cost business model, we really wanted to do everything online, and we were really struggling with executing forms properly and easily online without utilizing fax and multiple emails and creating it was a long drawn out process, and there was a lot of hiccups. So that's really what turned me on to it. And the fact that I really wanted also a secure online ID system.
Okay. And for people who may not be quite as tech savvy, explain a little bit about what that means for you.
I mean, the whole process, the setup was super easy. I gave them the forms I wanted to use. They made them fillable PDFs. We went over what fields would be optional, what fields would be mandatory. So that was super easy. On the ID process, I feel it's important to confirm the identity of the loved one
Absolutely.
before the cremation, because there is so much liability. So I mean, it's super easy. You can use an iPad, iPhone, pretty much any electronic device, take a picture, upload it. It's secure. The family has an option to do that, or they mandatory. And we'd put a little bit of care into the person to make them presentable. And we've gotten good feedback on it.
Tell me, since you already touched on it, tell me what your family feedback has been to things like the digital ID verification system and other Parting Pro features.
Most of the families on the digital ID are very pleased with the image they get. We've had no complaints, and it gives them a little bit of peace of mind since we're not meeting with them a lot in person. It gives them peace of mind. Oh, yep, that's dad. They have the right person.
Yeah.
This is how the process is going to work. So they get peace of mind from that. And as far as the forms, it's really been a godsend. It's made our life much easier than chasing fax machines and emails and trying to get people to comply and fill stuff out properly.
Well, and part of what I'm sure you have too, but part of what I ran into as a funeral director is people would say, "Oh yeah, I know how to fax. I'm familiar with fax. I have access to a fax." And I'd say, "Okay." And then I would get this fax from them, and it would be like really dark, really grainy, not readable, not usable. And I'm thinking, we just spent the whole day establishing that you know how to fax, and this is not something I can use now. So I had to go back,
Sure.
ask for it again. Like, what was your experience with that?
Pretty similar. They'd put it in the fax machine the wrong way, and you'd get a bunch of blank pages. And, of course, they faxed it at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And
Right.
then they said, well, I can't get to a fax machine again till tomorrow night. And so, yeah, the online signature and completion of the forms has been really, really the main reason, that and the ID viewing, that I like Parting Pro.
So tell me, in the cases when you've been able to use the digital ID verification, do you feel like it's given families a convenience that they didn't have before?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, it's helpful, and like I said, they find it reassuring to know we have the correct person.
Wonderful. So, really, from the time that a family contacts you or your firm, it sounds like you put Parting Pro to work right away by sending that email immediately, and then it begins straight off, right?
Yes, we pretty much send the inquiries for people who call in looking for information. I have found that not all families, but some families are much slower in their decision process than they used to be a few years ago. Making a decision, a provider they're using or contacting you when the death has occurred.
Mhm.
So sometimes, it's nice to be able to send that to them and then them have the ability to follow up or look the information over.
Absolutely. So, I'm interested in what you just said when you mentioned that families are being a little more selective in their choices and a little more selective in their shopping of funeral providers. Can you what is your conjecture on that? Why do you think that may be happening?
I think our industry is changing faster than it ever has. I think consumers are relying more on the internet. I still believe in the traditional brand, but I believe that the growing segment of our business is younger people who are online doing research. And, um, you know, for me, it's very odd to take a first call over Google text messaging and the person never even talks to you or online. But we're doing it, a lot now, a lot more frequent. And, we have people that don't even talk to us that are also just going through the process, and we get the alert that there's a new call and they've already checked out and paid for everything.
Wow.
So but it's a slower process, it seems, than them calling immediately. It's a day later, 2 days later after the death has occurred.
hmm So I think it's interesting though that you kind of alluded to a different type of consumer that's really gone online. Maybe there's a generational difference, maybe not, but consumers are really researching their options online. And it almost seems like if you don't have these digital options and if you don't have these features that give them that online experience, you may be left out of a market that you would have rather been a part of to serve these families, right?
Yes, I believe it's a growing market, and I believe we'll see more and more consumers shopping online in the future. And I don't believe it's for every consumer either,
Mhm.
but I do believe it will be a growing segment.
And I also, Brian, have to applaud you for what you said a moment ago, um, where you really said, you were uncomfortable taking a first call over a Google text, and it was sort of, maybe uncomfortable for you at the beginning. I appreciate that you offer that vulnerability
Hmm.
because I think other directors need to hear that it's okay to be maybe a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning, but if you're willing to take that step and educate yourself and grow and learn with your business, then your business will grow and learn with you back, right?
Yeah, it was an experience. Like, we didn't talk to the person for 2 or 3 days, and we offered to call them, and they're like, no, this is fine, I'm very comfortable with this option. So it was just different.
It is different. And I think so. I'm a fourth generation funeral director, so I have some family context historically in the business, but I'm also a millennial myself and understand comfort with technology and comfort with being online.
Mhm.
So, to kind of speak to that point, I can relate to both sides. I relate to you in that it's kind of strange to work with families over this medium, but
Mhm.
at the same time, if a family is asking for something, you have to provide it or they're going to go somewhere else.
Correct.
Yeah. So, with that being said, what would you, if you had to choose a single feature about Parting Pro that you would just, walk down the streets and talk to people about if you could, what would that glowing feature be?
I think while I like the two features I mentioned, the ID and the electronic forms, really the electronic forms have simplified our life, and made things run much smoother. So I'd have to put that at the top of the list at this point. And their customer service is always good. If there's an issue or something needs an adjustment or we need to modify a form, they're very helpful with getting it done effectively.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. I'll have to let the guys know.
Okay.
um, so last question for you. What would you say to other directors who are maybe considering Parting Pro, maybe considering implementing this in their business, but they're still not really sure? What do you wish someone had told you initially? What would you tell someone who's in that seat right now?
Um, I think they should look at the process they're doing and look at how productivity and manage this from anywhere, online, from their iPhone, from their tablet, from their computer, and really just give it a try for a couple months and see if it works for them. And if it makes things smoother and more efficient for their staff, I think they'll be happy in the long run.
Awesome. Well, that's all I really have to ask.